respect you deserve, Jerry. Making your life a living hell in Houston.
I haven't made Jerry's life a living hell.
Okay. Earlier you were talking about this. It seems like maybe there's a discrepancy with Ben in terms of the way he prepares his scenes and he prepares your scenes. Is there any truth to that?
Well, the interesting thing about working with a, actor-director is that they really take all the time in the world to make sure that their scenes are shot appropriately and taken care of. But, and Ben certainly is guilty of that.
Do you think he's going to get all the close-ups in the final cut of? Do you have scenes with Ben?
Yeah, I have scenes with Ben, and let's see. I don't know where to take this joke. I don't
okay,
know.
All right, that's enough of that stuff. Let's hang on and see if. Serious note, what was it that drew you to the script and to the role of Troy Dyer?
Well, it's always a little bit of a mystery to me that what makes why I ever decide to do any part. But I guess the truth would be that I thought it would be an interesting chance to do kind of an expose on some people that live right now. I like, often you do these movies, you're playing these people that are placed in extraordinary situations, and now Ben's going to come over here and make fun of me while I do this. Ben is, not a bad director. What was I talking about?
I don't know. Ben, you can come in if you want and do something, but then you got to leave.
I'm going to set the shot, and Ethan has a lot of free time. You're not actually working tonight, are you? You just came by the set. That's nice.
Just came by the set.
You heard the Entertainment Tonight.
I wanted to be on TV, Ben.
It's funny, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just gonna...
He doesn't have any work to do. He's got his girlfriend on the set with him. That's what he does, Anyway, I was talking about what attracts somebody to a role, right?
Right.
And I was saying that the main reason why I'd like to do walking by.
Jerry, could you kind of help keep people off the set here? Keep them from walking in front of the light or something? Oh, yeah. I know you're busy listening, but...
Somebody just walked in
front of the whole thing. Right through here.
This is great. I wanted to do this part because, I don't know, often you get asked to play these people that are, people placed in, extraordinary circumstances. And this is just a story of some regular people that exist right now. And I thought it would be, an interesting chance to do a riff on that, about people that I know right now.
Do you think this movie does reflect then the circumstances of society and people your age and what they're really going through?
You would hope that any movie, if it's truthful, is going to reflect something about society. I have no idea what this movie will reflect, and I wouldn't want to say if I did have a thought about it. But the real question is if the characters end up being true characters and the situations as we do them end up being true, then it will reflect something if people respond to it. That will tell more than me sitting here saying, I think that it's, going to speak for everybody.
Well, they have a name. They call it the reparation generation is the term they hand around. I guess the kids who are somewhat resentful, and if I'm saying this wrong, you can correct me.
Yeah.
I guess they're resentful that they don't have the greed of the 80s or the drugs of the 60s or the sex of the 70s or whatever. They feel like maybe they're getting the short end of the stick. They're paying for all of their parents' sins.
Yeah, but everybody's always paying for their parents' sins. You know what I mean? If they were in the 60s, they would end up, those guys, there are a lot of 60s casualties, and, there's a lot of, I don't know, people can say it's a reparation generation. People can call it Generation X, but I don't think that the generation knows enough about itself or has been around long enough to be anything. And so I think movies like this, if people want to put that label on it, are just, it's written by a young writer, so of course it's going to get that label. But really all it is, it's a generation that's just getting old enough to be able to write well and act well maybe and do these. And so we're going to start trying to figure out who we are, but I don't think you can start saying what anything is yet because, it's premature.
Still happening. the generation, maybe 10 years from now, you can say what this generation was about.
Well, yeah, in the year 2000, you'll have a better idea. Just like now, when during the 80s were happening, nobody knew really what it was, and now nobody really knows what the 90s are. Nobody knows what the Clinton administration is going to bring. Nobody knows what, the end of the Cold War is going to bring. There's a lot of question marks, and nobody knows if, everybody always thinks the world's going to blow up in the next 5 years, and it hasn't yet.
In terms of the character then, so is it the character itself, the situation, that got you excited about it rather than any kind of societal issues that might be?
Yeah. Personally, I always end up doing these movies for the oddest reasons, and I often get asked, after Dead Poets Society, everybody kind of, I often find myself in the situation of getting asked to play very introspective, kind of moral center type people, and I wouldn't call my character anybody's moral center, and I think that kind of attracted me to the part.
Is it a darker role for you then? Would that be a fair?
No, I mean, a darker role, I'd need to
or
be
darker side, or just more of you.
I don't want to speak so pretentiously, but I mean,
okay.
A darker side makes it sound like I'm doing, some Joseph Conrad piece or something, but.
Okay.
Kafka novel or something, I don't know.
And it's not that.
It's not that, no.
What about the audience? Is there anything you hope the audience takes home with them after when they see the movie?
What do they take home? I hope they go shopping and take home all they want. I think that we're still making the movie right now, and I think that it's dangerous to think too much about what you want people to take and just you want to try to concentrate on telling the story, which is about, these people that are kind of running around with their heads cut off for no reason. And I hope that there'll be something to take from that. But you can't start going, well, I think that they should learn that racial injustice is wrong. And, I don't know.
How about Ben Stiller? When did you first meet him? Was he the guy who enticed you in the project, and how'd that work?
I don't know. I met Ben in a diner in New York, and I liked him. But Winona was the one who told me about the movie, She's the one that told me about the movie, and then I met Ben, and Ben and I got along, and decided to come out and do it.
How was Winona to work with?
How's Winona to work with? Well, Winona's a
Well, that's a promo for ET that week. I guess you better do the interview with us tonight just to defend yourself, huh?
I'm sorry, please don't ever do anything with that, what would you do with it?
Cable, maybe.
All right. Ask me again. What's it like? What's it like to work with Winona? Well, well, it's interesting because I've done, I did a movie. I did Dead Poets Society. I did Alive, and I did a movie called A Midnight Clear. All three of which are these huge, male bonding movies. Lots of guys in these movies, and I really wanted to do a movie with a woman. And then this project came along, and and then they started moving things around. I really, I've done a lot of these male bonding movies.
Hang on a minute. Hold that thought, Ethan.
Try it again?
Yes, sir.
What was the question?
You're talking about having done a lot of male bonding movies. Thank you for starting over again. You can start again a third time.
Yeah. Well, I've done a lot of these male bonding movies. Alive and Dead Poets Society and A Midnight Clear, all these kind of guy extravaganzas. And so I really wanted to do a movie with a woman, and if I were to do one with a contemporary of mine, I would want it to be Winona, and it is, and so that's great.
How about, but you've known her before? I mean, is she someone you've met?
We'd met, we'd met in the circle, No, we'd met once a long time ago, and but supposed to do a couple movies together that didn't end up happening, and then so that's how we kind of met, and then this one happened.
So how would you compare or contrast the Ben Stiller who seduced you into playing in his movie, and then the kind of guy you see on the set every day? Is there a difference?
Well,
Once he's got you under his thumb?
Ben came on like he was a genius, and now he's letting on that, he's, an ordinary schlub from the Upper West Side. What do you want? No, it's, I find it really interesting to, it's interesting to work with somebody who's acting and directing at the same time. It kind of, I wasn't sure what I'd think of it, but it kind of lends to this whole feeling of, hey kids, let's put on a play. I mean, first of all, that we're all so young. Ben's so young, and Winona and I are so young, and then it feels kind of like we're just, goofing around and making this movie. And hopefully it won't come off like we're goofing around too badly. But there's a certain amount of that that's good, so maybe it'll be good.
It'll come off like maybe you're having a lot of fun.
What?
Maybe it'll come off like you're having a lot of fun.
Maybe.
And that'll
You
show up
never
on the
know.
screen.
You never know. Maybe.
Chemistry, all that chemistry stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and you, how does it feel not only to be in a movie with the girl after all the guy things, but maybe we're revealing the ending, but perhaps you have a chance at getting the girl in the end. Maybe, maybe not.
In this movie? Or in life?
Yeah.
What am I talking
In the
about?
movie.
In the movie. What are you saying? I'm confused. How am I feel about my character having a chance to
Yeah, being a romantic lead, I guess is another way to put it. The old-timey way of putting it.
Oh, I like that. I don't know. I don't know what that means, I don't
either.
You know what I mean? I don't know what that means.
This question says, do you like being able to play sort of a deadbeat grunge? Is that an accurate characterization of your...
Yeah, that sounds like a characterization.
How do you conceive of your character?
Well, I see him as, as somebody who's alive right now. I don't, a deadbeat grunge. I don't know what that means. I mean, grunge rock and roll, I don't know. He doesn't live in Seattle, so I don't know what that is. He doesn't wear a black knit hat, so I don't know what that is. If he's a deadbeat, people tend to call anybody who's under 30 without a job a deadbeat, and if that's what he is, then that's what he is, and then I'm playing a deadbeat. And if grunge means he doesn't clip his toenails regularly, then I'm playing that, and so that's what I'm playing. Okay. Toenails are the key to every character. I think Stanislavski said that.
I thought it was Olivier, but...
It was Olivier. It might have been George Burns. I don't know.
One of those guys, anyway. What about your career? How does this fit in with any kind of grand scheme on Ethan Hawke's part as to where
I'm trying to ride the one-way Winnebago to the bottom, Am I planning any kind of grand career schemes? No, the only kind of career scheme that I could think of is just to always try to do something that's a little different and that is interesting to you, and hope that the material is rich enough and interesting enough to keep you interested during the shoot of it. And I really liked the idea of doing a comedy and of working with Winona, and so it was interesting to me. And it's different. It's different than anything I've done, and so therefore of value to me, I guess.
The old British actor said that drama's easy, comedy's tough. This is, all the movies you've made have been pretty serious, if not downright grim. How is it getting an opportunity to play comedy, and how does it compare with your expectations?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, everybody always says that drama's easy and comedy's tough, because comedy's hit or miss. Something's either funny or it's not, I don't know. You asked me in a couple months, We'll see how I did. But I don't know.
When you're doing it, I guess there's probably not that much difference, right? I mean, you have to act, you have to be a character, you have to...
I mean, in my opinion, that like, you know, if you just play these things honestly and it's funny, well then it'll be funny. If you play it honestly and it's not funny, then what difference does it make? It was honest.
Is there anything I'm not asking you about this movie that you'd like to discuss with us? Because I have such lame questions. I didn't write them.
They weren't lame questions. Well, that's like, you know, you got to take the blame or the credit for what you say. You know, I didn't.
That's right.
I didn't write my answers tonight either. You know.
Who did?
Who did? Ben Stiller. No, there's nothing that I haven't answered. They were good questions. A job well done.
What about your stage thing, the play in New York? Tell us a little bit about what your next venture is, if you want to.
Yeah, I'm doing a play called Sophistry at off-Broadway theater called Playwrights Horizons as soon as I'm done with this. And I have a feeling that it'll be, it's going to change the face of American theater. I think it'll be the start, well, okay, some other people have already done that, but I think we're going to make an attempt to bring a theater back as a mainstream art form that's accessible to everybody and that people will like. And because theater's dead in this country, but this play is great. I'm doing a lot of plays this fall.
Well, how about as an actor? What are the benefits or the rewards?
I don't know. I don't know. Everybody in the world has spoke their piece on what the difference is between stage and screen acting, and I have no idea. They're completely different. Stage is a lot harder, but screen acting is a lot weirder. So they're both very tough to know how to handle.
You enjoy the audience feedback?
You know, stage is an actor's medium. I edit my own performance, and you know how you're doing right away. And it's more difficult. That's my opinion. And therefore more interesting ultimately, in my opinion, right now. But you know, a year ago I would have said something completely different. I would have ranted and raved about how fascinating movie acting was. And a lot of it depends on, you know, what your place is at a certain time.
And that place is changing. Every day we grow, we hope.
We hope.
Ethan, I appreciate your time.
I appreciate the questions.
You've been a lot of fun.